The Cabinet approved the general framework of the new initiative to support the productive sectors, industry and agriculture. The initiative aims to reduce the interest rate on loans provided to the industrial and agricultural sectors within the framework of continuous support for these sectors and their activities. The initiative included providing about £150 billion, of which approximately £140 billion is to finance working capital operations and about £10 billion to finance the purchase of capital goods. The proposed period for the initiative is 5 years, starting immediately after its approval by the Cabinet. A statement indicated that the volume of credit available to each company is determined in light of the size and its business and the regulating banking rules, provided that the maximum limit allowed for each company does not exceed the amount of £75 million and about 150% of the maximum limit for associated customers, provided that the transactions of each company are with a maximum of 2 banks participating in the initiative. The companies joining the initiative will bear a reduced interest rate of 11%, provided that the Ministry of Finance bears the difference in the interest rate. It is prohibited for any customer to use any of the available credit available under this initiative to pay any other due debts on the date of implementation of this initiative or during its implementation to the banking sector. The implementation mechanisms of the initiative are put in place in coordination between the Ministry of Finance and each of the Central Bank of Egypt, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, and other concerned parties.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight this important issue and the state directions, we have with us today Engineer Mohamed Azzam, Technology and Development Expert. Thank you so much for being with us.
Always a pleasure and honor being with you.
Thank you so much. And let me start ahead. And how far is that important? Is this direction by the state and the government directed to such or for boosting such an important sector, and this initiative of the £150 billion in support of that direction?
Actually, without having a balanced economy, it would be very hard to realize growth. And balancing economy is based on having a good, up-to-date, resilient, green industrial sector. And this is one of the lessons that we learned from the COVID crisis, that you cannot rely so much on the service industry, for example, because service industry by nature is fragile, and the most important thing is to rely on more rigid, more concrete, more robust industrial sector. And Egypt, due to its location, is possessing a very good chance to attract many different investment in different sectors related to the high-tech industry, relating to the manufacturing, to the car automotive industry, the textile, and without energy, of course, energy is one of the great industries, and actually we are witnessing a great progress in this very important sector, and we've seen this during the COP discussions, and Egypt signed a lot of cooperation protocols and a lot, and it will be a hub for producing the hydrogen or green energy based on green hydrogen. And this is one of the key factors, actually, because without having this kind of sustainable renewable energy, I think the world is facing a lot of challenges regarding to the climate change, to the global warming, and almost a few hundred billions investment are coming in this direction from abroad to the countries that are capable to attract such investment. And Egypt is actually one of the great countries, or one of the great countries that already developed this sector, the energy sector, a lot over the last 8 years.
The timing of this new initiative, the £150 billion that are directed for boosting this sector, comes at the backdrop of important developments world developments that are really having or heavy repercussions on the whole world's economies. And hence there has been some measures taken by the government and the state in order to counter the measures in its own way. What opportunities is the state opening for investments and for the industrial sector?
Actually, we are facing a new economic reality due to the COVID pandemic crisis and due to the war that's taking place now in Ukraine. And the new reality is developing a new concept. The world was developing or were promoting the concept of globalization as a driver for economic development. Actually, this has been changed due to the problems and issues that we faced during the pandemic or during the war in Ukraine, that we had a lot of disruption in the global supply chain. That's why if you need to have a resilient ecosystem or a resilient economy and resilient society and resilient industry, you need to be more focused on the local components. You need to actually not only local but also on the regional level, and building clusters on regional and local levels that could be connected to the global economy, rather than having the wide scope of globalization that I'm spreading everything thin all over the world. And once we had this kind of challenges that unprecedented for like 70 years now, since maybe the second Great War, we realized that we are missing, most of the countries were missing the concept of building local competences and building local clusters within the boundaries of the country. That's why this is very important, actually, initiative to start building economic clusters here in Egypt and localizing the industries and grabbing more or attracting more direct investment in this sector, because we have a very good position with respect to the location, to respect to the competent, competitive labor. I wouldn't say cheap labor, because the world is now looking for competitive and more skilled labor force. And Egypt has been investing a lot in the vocational training. We've been investing in the polytechnic.
Investing in calibers and preparing
definitely.
Calibers able to be to cope with the market requirements. Indeed. Localizing industry, you've put the word into brackets, because this is another importance for the focus of the country, localizing industries. What does this word mean exactly, and why is it very important to localize industries, particularly in several issues related to to lessen the gap between exports and imports?
The ultimate goal for any government is to have a better trade balance and to have a balance between exports and imports. And now again, due to the new economic reality, you need to have a substitute for imported goods and services. And the only way to do so is to localize industries in your country. And this is
because of this disruption to the supply chain.
Definitely.
Yes,
this is a very serious situation that the whole world is really facing now.
Yes.
And that's why you need to be more self-reliant. You need to be more self-resilient. You need to be able to absorb unthinkable shocks like the pandemics or the health crisis or the geopolitical tension that are taking place in between United States and China, between the Europe led by the United States and Russia around about Ukraine. So you cannot depend on external resources all the time. You need to have a sort of self-resilient, self-sufficient ecosystem, industrial ecosystem, that could replace a lot of imported goods and services from abroad. So you're going to lessen the pressure on the hard currency that you need. Also, you are creating more jobs, which is very important aspect.
Yes.
And then you need to produce goods and services that are matching with the international taste to be able to export such goods. You cannot only have industrial sector that producing goods and services for your local consumption. You need also to, within the design of the segment, you need to consider also exporting your goods and services to the other markets. This is what make you able to attract more investment. Attraction of more investment means that you will be able to create more jobs, and you have a more resilient, more competent, more competitive economic and subsequently resilient society as well.
The role of the private sector, because the president, the leadership and the government have been calling on the private sector that it's now time for them to stand side by side to the efforts exerted by the government, all in face of the challenges that we are facing together. How do you view the role of the private sector, and how do you view chances that are given by the government for this sector?
The role of private sector is critical, is crucial for any developed or developing economy. And I would say also there is a role for small and micro and small and medium enterprises as well. But we need to have them within a cluster. We need to connect large enterprises with small and medium enterprises to be within an ecosystem or a cluster to develop the economy, to develop their sector. And also for the private sector, they need also to employ technology in advancing their competitiveness. They need to employ technology to advance the quality of their product and services. And you cannot do this unless, as a private sector, invest in research and development efforts. 70% of research and development efforts worldwide are coming from the private sector, not the governments, by the way. There's a mental image that government is responsible for spending on research and development, which is not the case, actually. 70% or 70, even 75% are coming from the private sector, because the private sector, they need to be all the time competitive. They need to be all the time able to meet the competition internally and externally. And without having quality services and products, by employing the technology, the fourth industrial revolution technologies, the up to the very high, up-to-date standards, you will be able to compete and to be competitive.
And let me pick it from here, competitiveness, and work is in full swing in the largest spinning plant in the world. That will bring Egypt back to strong competition. Where? The largest spinning factory. Let's watch this report.